Mr. Speaker, there he goes again. When it goes wrong, it's nothing to do with him. It is the Prime Minister's ABC. Anyone but Cameron to blame when things go wrong. Now, what did the Chancellor say at the time of the budget last year? That his approach, and I quote, would deliver a steady and sustained economic recovery with low inflation and falling unemployment. Mr. Speaker, 3 promises made, 3 promises broken. Their plan is failing, and that is the truth. Doesn't that show why at the autumn statement the Prime Minister should change course?
Let me just give him the latest growth figures in Europe, right? Britain grew at 0.5% in the last quarter. That is the same as the US and Germany. It's faster than France, faster than Spain, faster than the EU average, and faster than the Eurozone average. That is the fact. Now, of course, it is a difficult economic environment we're in, but is there a single other mainstream party anywhere in Europe who thinks the answer to the debt problem is more spending and more borrowing? If he's worried about the level of debt, why is he proposing to add another £100 billion to it? It is the height of irresponsibility and the reason why people will never trust Labour with the economy again.
How out of touch does this Prime Minister sound? 1 million young people and their families worried about finding a job, and all he offers is complacency and more of the same. And now we know it, Mr. Speaker. However high youth unemployment goes, however bad it gets, it's a price worth paying to protect his failed plan. I tell him this, unless he changes course next week, 1 million young people will become the symbol of his failed economic plan and an out-of-touch Prime Minister.
The right honourable gentleman asks for a change of course. Let me just say to him what it is that the leading economic organisations in our country and indeed across the world say about that issue. The IMF say this: is there a justification for a shift in the policy mix? We think the answer is no. Let's listen to the Governor of the Bank of England, Mervyn King. There has to be a plan A. He says he wouldn't listen to him. It was Labour who appointed him. There has to be a plan A. This country needs a fiscal consolidation starting from its largest peacetime budget ever. Who was it who gave us that peacetime budget? The Labour Party. Listen to the CBI. The CBI, the leading business organisation in this country. Priorities for the next 12 months. Stick closely to the existing credible plan. That is what the experts say. That is what business says. That is what the Bank of England says. Would you listen to them, or would you listen to the people that got us into this mess in the first place?
Mr. Speaker, can I join the Prime Minister in paying tribute to Rifleman Sheldon Steele from 5th Battalion, the Rifles? He served with huge commitment and courage, and our deepest condolences are with his family and friends. Mr. Speaker, in June at Prime Minister's Questions, the Prime Minister praised the head teacher of Vena First School in Redditch for refusing to strike. Today, she's closed her school. She says, "This has been the most difficult decision of my professional life. The difference in the summer was that I had faith in the government. I have not seen any progress, so I have decided to strike." Why does the Prime Minister think so many decent, hard-working public sector workers, many of whom have never been on strike before, feel the government simply isn't listening?
The reason people are going on strike is because they object to the reforms that we are making to public sector pensions. But I believe those reforms are absolutely essential. And as the former Labour Pension Secretary, Lord Hutton, said, and he said this, it is hard to imagine a better deal than this. But what I would say above all to people who are on strike today is that they are going on strike at a time when negotiations are still underway. The Right Honourable the right honourable gentleman refers to what was said in June. Let me remind him what he said on the 30th of June. These strikes are wrong. These strikes are wrong at a time when negotiations are going on. Why has he changed his mind?
Mr. Speaker,
Order! I say to people who are engaged in orchestrated barracking, it's very tedious from whichever side it comes. It's very tedious, it's very juvenile, the public don't want to hear it, neither do I. The Leader of the Opposition will be heard, as the Prime Minister will be heard, and that's all there is to it. Mr. Ed Miliband.
The workers don't think he's listening. It's because they declared negotiations at an end 4 weeks ago. They said they'd made their final offer. They said they'd made their final offer, Mr. Speaker. And they haven't even met the unions for 4 weeks, since November the 2nd. And what has the Prime Minister gone round saying to people? He's gone round saying he's privately delighted the unions have walked into his trap. That is the reality. He's been spoiling for this fight. And the reason people have lost faith is he's not being straight with people. Will he admit that 800,000 low-paid workers on 15,000 a year or less are facing an immediate tax rise of 3% on his pension plan?
I know his entire party is paid for by the unions, but I have to say, it is extraordinary that what he's just told the House is completely and utterly untrue. The fact is, there were meetings with the trade unions yesterday. There will be meetings with the trade unions tomorrow. There will be meetings on Friday. These discussions, these negotiations are underway. And let me repeat again what he said in June. It is wrong to strike when negotiations are going on. And yet today, he now backs the strikes. Why? Because he's irresponsible, left-wing and weak.